All right, let's get into other issues from across the international scene now to discuss what is going on. Now, President Donald Trump is probably still reeling from this news, but for Democrat Doug Jones, this marks the beginning of service to his people for the next 6 years in Alabama.
Absolutely. Now, Jones won a keenly contested seat for the state of Alabama, defeating Republican candidate Roy Moore. But Doug Jones will be the first Democrat elected to the U.S. Senate from Alabama in the last 25 years.
Well, Trump had openly endorsed Moore, even as other party leaders in Washington shied away from him after several women accused Moore of sexual misconduct in their teenage years.
And you have all heard me say this at one point or another in this campaign. I have always believed that the people of Alabama had more in common than to divide us. We have shown not just around the state of Alabama, but we have shown the country the way that we can be unified.
Now we have in the studio a global affairs analyst, Barrister Muyiwa Shobo, joining us right now. Good morning. It's nice to see you.
Good morning.
Alabama seemed to have made a statement, and a bold statement at that, after 25 years at this time. Were you surprised?
I was, just like everyone else. And it's even more significant if you think of the fact that Donald Trump carried that state by 38 points, just barely a year ago. So I often said it, that America will find a way to correct its wrong. I think the correction started last night. So it was a surprise. Well, some of us couldn't even sleep because of this. I watched CNN early this morning, watching Ana Navarro, one of the analysts, singing "Oh Happy Day." Oh Happy Day. Happy Day is back here now.
Yes, it's a historic thing that just happened in Alabama. So how, if you want to use it to look at the bigger picture in the politics that might play out in the United States in months or years to come, what would you foresee or say that could happen, knowing that a strong Republican state just voted in a Democrat? Yeah,
well, the political implication will include the fact that Roy Moore was endorsed by the president. He campaigned for, he did robocall. He went so close to Alabama, not in Alabama, but so close to campaign for him. So this person, Roy Moore, is Donald Trump's candidate. Now, if you put that within the context of what Donald Trump is facing domestically, you will know that something serious may be happening to his presidency. One, all the Republican elected officials now will be departing from him. He has become like a leprous finger, and they will try to, even those who were sitting on the fence up until yesterday, they were watching that election to see what that's the reddest of all the red states. I mean, that is the core support for Donald Trump. And they decisively voted against him, not only against Roy Moore, against everything that Donald Trump stands for. It is going to be interesting to see what the implication of that. But to me, I know that he has lost support in the House, he has lost support in the Senate. He's an isolated president, and that will not spell any good fortune for him in the future. We are looking at Mueller coming out with several indictments now, and predictably, you can say that by January, even before Christmas, certain things will happen in that regard. He has lost support. He's all by himself. I will not calculate or even predict his reaction, but if we are going to go by what he used to do, he's going to go ballistic. He's going to go start tweeting and calling people names all over again. The U.S. folks are just tired of this type of politics. They voted for him thinking they were voting for change. We have gone from Obama and Clinton
it's actually
to this.
A change, anyway.
Yeah, it's a change, but it's a change for the world.
It's kind of change they expected.
That's the kind of change that he has worked so hard. Somebody call him, they call him pyromaniac. news analysis, like pyromaniac, somebody who just want to go there and burn down everything. North Korea is there.
North Korea tags him as a mentally deranged person.
So this person, Donald Trump, has shown himself not to be presidential in any regard, and this, the result of Alabama elections, actually the senatorial election, actually it kind of put a cap on the expectations. Just cap it off and say, look, we are no longer going to tolerate this kind of. And then, you know, all these women who came to accuse him of sexual harassment, they are now emboldened. You see lawsuits. You see all kind of. The guy is in serious trouble. If I were him, I would be able to sleep at night.
But in all of this now, some analysts have even said that the election between Moore and Jones in Alabama is not even about them. That the original statement they wanted to make was to Donald Trump himself.
Exactly. It's a message. Look, ordinarily, someone like Roy Moore will not be even he will consider running. Look, the guy was kicked out the Alabama bench as the Supreme Court of Alabama. He was. I've known him for a while. I've tracked his history for a while. He was one who wanted to erect the Ten Commandments in front of the court. He was accused of so many things. He couldn't even win when he ran for the judgeship in Alabama. He couldn't win in his own county. But it was Donald Trump that emboldened his candidacy. I mean, seeing what happened, there were people of Alabama now, because they are white evangelicals, they would tolerate anything, and some of them actually did. Now, I don't even think the evangelicals supported him that much last night. I don't think they came out as much as, because they are trying to send a message. We are no longer going to tolerate. I mean, this is our state. We don't want to put our state in such a bad light because of Roy Jones or because of Donald Trump. Strong statement.
A strong statement indeed. Now, and looking at his government, Donald Trump's government, he has somehow is antagonistic of the media, majority of the media outlets there. So they are in kind of a war almost every time. Someone says he's destroying his presidency one tweet at a time. So there are so many insults leveled against this man, and then somehow he still manages to put hands on international affairs, bringing you to his statements recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. And now the EU saying that, no, we wouldn't allow that.
Well, see, beyond the domestic isolation, there's this international isolation because of what he has done and what he said. He has abused some important world leaders, including the Prime Minister of Great Britain and others. Angela Merkel has been at the bottom of his insulting statement. Exactly. So they're just looking and hoping, like the rest of the world, that America will fix this problem. They are going to do their run in isolating him, and that's what they did with the issue of Jerusalem. Like I said, somebody called him a pyromaniac because he did not think of the repercussion of recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel now. Well, people will have their sentiments, religious sentiments, political sentiments when it comes to Jerusalem, you know. But if you look at the track record of his predecessors, of course, it's this American Jerusalem Act of 1995 that said, well, we're going to recognize. But in
agreement.
In that act, there's a waiver. And that waiver was calculated to give any sitting president the room to examine the situation first before moving to execute that act. And everyone before him look at the situation. Look, the Intifada went from, I think, from 1987 to 2014. I mean, almost 20 years of riots, people killing each other and dying. And the fact that Jerusalem is the site of, you know, the most important religious site for these three Abrahamic religions. Jerusalem itself split into two in 1948 or so during the Jordan-Israeli war. East Jerusalem went to Jordan. So 3,000 years ago, there's been problems. It's been occupied and occupied. It's been taken up 55 times or so. So the world is looking, and because of that, is the most important part of the peace process. So it has to be separated first. Let's deal with all the other situation first, and then we'll come to Jerusalem. Because if you throw in Jerusalem into it, then we can't get to the other issues. That was the logic, the peaceful logic that drove the intention of American president not to record that. But he got there. He was not even looking at that. And how does it help the peace process if you all of a sudden recognize Jerusalem as a capital of Israel?
In all of this now, does this going forward, because we saw that in the mediation process, America used to be one of the most influential, but with this now, and in fact most of the world, in fact our U.S. allies are deciding. European countries are saying no, it's not the right move. Arab countries are saying no, it's not the right move. Even the Pope and Saudi Arabia and all of that, who are originally primary allies of the United States. Is this going to reduce the amount of influence that America is going to have even in the international community, not just even on this issue? Because we also know that when it comes to the climate change issues, America is pulling out. Is this going to reduce the impact and influence of America across the world?
It has already done so. Even before the Jerusalem declaration by Donald Trump, only because in diplomacy, trust is a big issue. You have to be able to trust who you are negotiating with. Big issue. You have to be able to trust who you are negotiating with. But if American leadership that the world trusted before is now diminished by this act, so even the Arabs will be looking at the United States not as an impartial mediator no longer, and that it's very damaging to the reputation of the United States. And I think the world knows it. Look at the pronunciation by the United Nations, by the EU, by the Pope. I mean, you're talking about the Pope. So, and you will think that will impact a reversal immediately. But no, it's Donald Trump who believes only him matters. And he's like the next best into a white sliced bread.
Thank you very much.
We have to be here now.
Barrister Muyiwa Ashobo, thank you for your analysis at this time on the election and, of course, the Israeli development on Jerusalem as capital.
Thank you.